All right. Well, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Dubai Marketing Cloud User Group. Today we have a special session. We have our friends from DESelect who have kindly accepted to join us today to talk about DESelect and how it really empowers your business with using their amazing segmentation capabilities. So I'm Ali Saeed. I am the Marketing Automation Practice Lead in 4C here in Dubai. I am also the Marketing Cloud User Group Leader. So I normally host these sessions on a monthly basis. Last month we had a great session with Sales Wings and Salesforce. And as I mentioned this month, the guys from DESelect have kindly accepted and joined us to talk about their product. So I'm gonna just quickly introduce the guys. So we have Ben and Greg from DESelect. So I'm just gonna hand over to Ben and Greg to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ali, and appreciate the opportunity and the platform. So my name is Ben. I'm an account executive at DESelect, and colleague is Greg. I'll allow him to introduce himself as well.
Hey everyone, thanks Ali, thanks Ben. So my name is Gregory, and I will also support today's presentation with a demo. And so my role is to understand customer requirements and usually analyze the technical and in-depth requirements for customers' segmentation strategy. Thank you.
All right,
Awesome.
thanks very much. Ali, so it will be probably a good idea if I could share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. So I'm just gonna stop and then over to you, Ben.
Thank you. All right, guys, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So, I mean, just a quick introduction. We'll get later back in regards to what DESelect entails entirely. But DESelect is basically meant to empower marketers in terms of data management, and we will dive deep into it to give you a good idea and understanding of the problems that it basically solves. But the idea came when our CEO Anthony Lamotte spotted a gap in the industry. He felt like SQL, basically there's a lot of challenges that comes with it. So this was an opportunity that he felt will be interesting to figure out and test the market. And since then, the company has been growing. We have a few interesting customers, and since the company has been growing, I've been part of them. So DESelect basically it's a company that focuses mainly on segmentation for busy marketers, and it's an app basically fully integrated into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So without further ado, some of the reasons why people, or I would say that the challenges that we've identified is that marketers whom we want to empower do not have an understanding or at least knowledge when it comes to SQL. So the lack of knowledge is can be seen or identified as one of the main challenges. Aside that, also time that is being spent. Obviously, it's a lot of time that goes into writing SQL and data management in general. So due to that, it leads also to poor segmentation and poor targeting and personalization. And there's also the dependency, of course, on technical experts, and then the long campaign cycles. So all these are some of the challenges that currently people face, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today. So marketers obviously have to deal with large data variety sources, and most of these data are basically not campaign ready. So in order to do that, they rely on technical experts, but they also rely on um, SQL, and some use spreadsheets and so on and so forth. So in order to do this, it's very time consuming, and it can be quite a tedious process. So with that in mind, they always have to contact and have interaction with the team that is a bit more an expert, so mostly IT, tech savvy kind of people. And this leads to obviously what we call the targeting ping pong. Basically, what it means in essence, in a nutshell, is the time spent on overhead communicating from one team to the other. It's all being lost, basically. There's a lot of time that goes into that. And this leads to obviously a situation whereby DESelect can be beneficial. Why? Because the idea is that you do not require any technical knowledge, or at least not in depth. And the app also is fully integrated into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So it's a plug and play app right in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So this slide basically focuses on, I would say, what we call it marketing automation hype cycle. And the reason why we call it the hype cycle is because a lot of customers, once they get Salesforce Marketing Cloud, there is like enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm at some point comes with starts to fade when they start to realize some of the challenges that it comes with. And mainly the focus, obviously, so it's like a roller coaster effect, sort of. So then they realize that there's a need for SQL, and a lot of people are basically not ready for that or prepared for that. So based on that, DESelect obviously is one of the solutions out there that focuses on trying to solve the need or the problem. So as mentioned, we do not require any technical knowledge, and DESelect also allows the customers to become independent. Like as I rightfully mentioned in the beginning, the idea is to empower marketers. So there is the campaign cycle, and mainly it's focused on managing data. As you can see the slide, the campaign cycle takes a much longer time just because of the segmentation that goes into it. And the previous slides that we've spoken of, this is the part that it represents in terms of the time that goes into it. And this is not just a number that's been plucked from the sky, basically, because we have customers that have basically confirmed that. And based on that is how we realize that there's a 20% time that can be won in terms of the campaign as well. So briefly, to give you an idea of the benefits, it's it's a tool which you can use. You can have the chance to play with SQL without knowing SQL, and this obviously helps in terms of increase of campaign, return of investment at the end of the day. It allows you to go deep into segmentation, which we will soon see in a bit. It gives you the chance to personalize things very, very detailed, and which will, at the end of the day, help you in terms of the audience that you want to reach. And also, once you have Salesforce Marketing Cloud, obviously it's not the cheapest tool around, even though it's a great tool. There is a thing that I would say the leaders or the executives wants to sort of get value for money, and in that sense, it needs to be user friendly. They need to be able to justify the reason why they made such a big expense in terms of acquiring Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So in that sense, having a tool like DESelect, it could be beneficial because the workers will be able to use Salesforce Marketing Cloud and will be able to segment, which in that sense makes it the budget that you spend basically on Salesforce Marketing Cloud is basically justified because you get more users that are willing and encouraged basically to use it. And last but not the least, there is also, the idea of making everything more efficient, more agile, more fast. So that's one of the reasons why we are here today. We're quite proud of what we've done so far, and we do have a few customers that obviously has written some of the nice things about us. So we do like to highlight that because we're quite proud of that. As you can see, we part of the Salesforce App Exchange as well. So we're getting 5-star reviews from customers, which is always very nice. Some of our brands that we work with, Almond brand, which is based in Denmark, they've also given us some nice feedback regarding our tool. This is a testimonial video that basically and it talks about how DESelect has been able to help them in terms of efficiency. At least 50%. That's a lot of time saved, and there will be obviously no dependence on SQL. Some of the customers also include Merlin, some of the big brands out there. I'll not go into detail in every customer because at the end of the day, you want to see the demo. But just to basically go over it, it's just to give you an idea that it's not just us plucking some numbers from the sky. It keeps coming back. Some of our customers give really, really good reviews, and obviously it has been helping them in terms of efficiency. As well as Cambridge University Press is one of our customers right from the beginning, right from the get-go. They saw value, and they're quite happy up till today. Corona Direct in our country, Belgium, is also quite one of the customers that has been using it, and they're quite happy when it comes to the drop and drop, drag and drop instead of depending on IT for SQL. PLF in the States is also one of our customers. And Village Roadshow, obviously they make movies. They're based down in Australia. They're doing really great stuff. One of our customers as well. So without further ado, I would allow my colleague Gregory to do the presentation. And if there is any questions, always feel free to interrupt because he can go extensively into our tool, and anything that you have in terms of questions afterwards, feel free to ask us as well. So that's it on my side for now. I'll pass it over to my colleague Greg, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I'll stop sharing my screen now.
All right, thanks, Ben. And I will share my screen. Okay, so now you should be able to see Salesforce Marketing Cloud environment. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, super, thank you. All right, so I opened my Salesforce Marketing Cloud demo account to show you, first of all, the data extensions that I will work with. So for this demo, I have just chosen the simple data extensions called accounts, contacts, and opportunities. I think that everyone who worked with Salesforce Sales Cloud knows their structure. So I will just show you only accounts data extension to give you a quick idea on the structure of these DEs. So here I populated with some fake data, so just the demo data set that we use. And just to guide you through the data extension structure, it has an account ID field as a primary key, some information about company, industry, street, city, etc., and type. So type can be prospect customer, ex-customer. And we'll apply some filters based on this information. So all other data extensions contain also primary key and a field that links to accounts data extension by account ID. All right, so at this point, I will open DESelect that you can find under App Exchange button over here. So well, it's single sign-on. So DESelect is fully integrated into Salesforce Marketing Cloud ecosystem, which means that it's single sign-on and it's just perceived as another Marketing Cloud Studio. So once I click that, well, as you can see, we just open DESelect. We are still in Salesforce Marketing Cloud environment. And here you can see an overview of all selections done within this business unit. Now, I will guide you through the interface of this dashboard first, and then we will create a new selection on the go. So I will start from the left side of my screen, which is folders overview or all the folder structure. So I do store my selections based on some industry examples, but well, you can just see what are the current selections. However, you can create as many folders as you may need. So this is not a predefined set of folders. You can create as much as you might need. You can create new folders, delete and rename those. And here on the main part, you can see a list of all selections created within this folder. So for example, new Christmas campaign that I have done recently has a status called completed, or you see a green tick here, which means that this selection was already created and it was already run. So we have some records as a result. In our case, it's 235 records. And you can see that it was always created and last modified by me, since it's my demo environment. But if you would like to collaborate with your colleagues and, let's say, share your selections and, for example, perform such scenarios when you create a template of your selection and then you want it to be used by your colleagues, that's exactly why this is designed for. So you can simply copy this selection and it will save the actual parameters. I mean, the data relationships, filters, deduplication settings, sorting, and limiting possibilities. So in that way, we have quite a lot of customers who already perform this scenario when, let's say, central team does some templates for local teams. So yeah, that's the possibility that you might want to use. Right, and you also can see some information about selections, when last modified, yep, last run, etc. And you can delete them, of course. So also on the right side, you can see two other buttons, settings and question mark. So settings button leads you to DESelect administration panel, where you can define DESelect users and predefine some pick lists. We will see pick lists in the selection creation process. However, you may know pick lists from Salesforce Sales Cloud, where they're implemented by default, and especially in well, in campaigns and in reports. So we implemented exactly the same in Marketing Cloud, so you can apply pick lists to any field. And here you can also have a link to DESelect support articles. So if you are stuck at some point, you can read more. All right, so now I will create a new selection and I will guide you through the selection creation process. So in order to create a selection, we need to go through 3 easy steps. So first, we will define selection criteria, then we will choose a target definition, and we will either use an existing target data extension, or we will create a new DE on the go to save some time. And finally, we will see the preview of our selection to ensure that everything works as expected. All right, I will just give it the name and let's name it as a user demo. And I will start with this box. So here I will start with adding available data extensions to my selected data extensions field. It's worth mentioning that we do support all types of data extensions in DESelect. And when I say all, I mean synchronized shared standard DEs. And on top of that, you can also use data views, such as send or subscribers, etc. So I will show you some examples based on the data views, so some behavioral segmentation, and you can also use data views in filters, of course, and that's exactly the use case we will look into. So I will start with accounts data extension, and I simply drag and drop it over selected data extensions. So here I will give it a name, and sorry, not a name, but just an alias. And alias is just a shorter name of your data extension. So this is a part of the template creation process. So that means that we give a shorter name for this data extension only within this selection, and it never changes the original e-name. Then we can click Save.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question here?
Yes, please.
I have a customer who, to be honest, I think this would be perfect for. And one of the issues they have is that they have multiple different data extensions that they need to combine together. So like this example here. But the issue that they have is that they don't have like a common identifier across all data extensions. They don't have email across all of them. They might be joining table A and B on one specific ID and then table C and D on another ID. Is there any way that they would be able to do this kind of in one selection, or would they have to split that out?
Absolutely. So let's take an example or use case where I would like to find accounts that have where customers have made some orders, right? But there is no link between accounts and orders.
Yeah.
So in order to perform this scenario, I need to join context data extension with accounts. So I will drop it on top of accounts. Again, just creating some alias. Save. So at this point, some magic for non-technical marketers will happen, and we can define a data relationship based on two fields just by joining, just by choosing a field here. So in my case, that would be account ID. And I can choose any type of data relationship. So it can be either inner join, this is left join, this is right join, and all types of exclusions are supported. Right. So here we have two fields, account ID, and we click save. And then I would like to also get orders data extension. So now I have a choice. I can either drop it on top of accounts if I know that there is a link with accounts data extension, or I drop it on top of contacts. So in this way, I join it already with contacts data extension. Let's just name it orders. All right. And here I join it by contacts ID, and in orders, I also choose contact ID as a field to create a data relationship on. So here you can see that we performed like a so-called cross join, or we got to orders data extension with the help of contacts data extension. And you can, of course, it's a bit oversimplified example, but there is no limit on the number of data extensions that you can add, and there is no limit on the number of joins or data relationships that you can create.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Right, and does it reflect the actual use case that you had?
In this case, it's not orders. It's actually for a auction house. So they have a database for multiple different auction houses, and then against those they have lots, and they have IDs, they have lot URLs. So they have about 9 different data extensions per business unit, and they're very loosely tied together. So we're finding a lot of the stuff that we want to do in Journey Builder through Data Designer we can't do, and we need to use SQL, which is why I think this would potentially be a good use case for them.
That's an interesting use case, Sarah. I think it would be best to follow up after this meetup, and I will send you a direct message so we can discuss it in detail if it works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, super, thank you. All right, so for this purpose, I will use just opportunities data extension, and we will drop it on top of accounts. So here I will just give it an alias called opportunities, and then I click save. Right. So here, I will just choose account ID field to create a join or data relationship based on these two fields. Right. So you can also drop data views here as mentioned. So if you like to join accounts with send data view or filtered by job ID, that is absolutely possible. All right, and then we can move to the filters part, where we can find all the available fields from our source data extensions that we can use for filters. All the fields are grouped by data extension names, such as accounts, contacts, opportunities. And so here we have all of those that you can either drag and drop over here one by one, or you can perform search to find a certain field. So I need type field from accounts data extension, and I also would like to apply stage field from opportunities data extension. Now, filters in DESelect are much more advanced than in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and I will show you some advanced use cases. So first off, as you may already see, I added 2 fields here, and I created 2 filters, and here you have an and or logic. So at this point, you can already see that there is no need for customers to type the values manually, and especially for like the example that Sarah taught. For example, if you have different codes that you need to type in, and marketers need to filter based on that. Usually, marketers do not know the exact value in their target data extension, so they either type it manually or they need to open another tab in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, download their data extension, and perform a search in Excel. So we help them to avoid this. And instead of that, you can just use this drop-down menu with customer, like prospect X customer, which are the exact values in this data extension. So DESelect has already scanned your data extension, and now it suggests the available values there. So let's assume that I need to choose only customers and prospects. So X customers are not included into our selection. And the same would be with stage. So only open stage. So these are like, well, pretty simple examples. Instead, I suggest we can have a quick look on a bit more advanced use cases. And those would be, let's take a use case, or let's take an example that we would like to find only those contacts who opened at least 2 emails that we have sent to them. So in that case, I will take email field from contacts data extension, and I will perform filter called in results. Here we go. So we do support all the filters, all the standard filters from Salesforce Marketing Cloud that we will not focus on, such as contains, does not contain, in, not in, is no, or is empty, is not empty. But instead, let's indeed look into this advanced scenario. So here I'm choosing a data view called sent, and I need to choose a field called subscriber key, since this is the relationship in my data model. So in other words, I'm looking for the values from email field from contacts data extension in results of sent data view by subscriber key field, which literally means that I'm looking for emails who are present in sent data view, or those contacts to whom emails were sent. And then I can go to this filter button, and here I can perform like really in-depth advanced filters. For example, I would like to know if the email was sent 2 times to a certain subscriber within the certain job ID, for example, within certain email campaign. So I can fill in here the job ID should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for instance, and I can drag and drop subscriber key field here. Now, to calculate how many times my subscriber opened an email, I need to perform calculation. So to perform a calculation in DESelect, that's really easy to do. You only need to click on the formulas button, and you can select the following formulas. So we do support count, average, sum, minimum, and maximum values. The last 4 are only available for the number fields, while count is available for any field. So I will apply count formula, and I would like to calculate the number of times this subscriber key appears in sent data view, or how many times this subscriber was sent an email. And they say that it should be greater than or equal to 2 emails. So this is an example on how you can perform behavioral segmentation in DESelect. Again, this is still a simple one. Of course, you can add event date, domains, define job IDs, etc. And of course, by all means, date fields are more advanced in DESelect too. So you can set up relative dates, and they can be like 5 minutes, years, weeks, before, now, should be after or on. And lastly, you can also group these filters by all means. So of course, you can create these logic boxes such as and or, and go as advanced as you may need. All right, so that was an example of some calculations and aggregations. just maybe to show you another example with not in results. This is simply an exclusion, and it usually happens with some customers that, well, they simply need to exclude certain audience from their selection. So in that case, we simply choose filter not in results, and we can exclude certain data extension or a data view. For example, I don't want the emails to be sent to bounced customers, so I choose bounce data view, and again, just I choose subscriber key as a field to perform exclusion. Or it can be simply the, let's say, certain exclusion data extension. I have the relevant example for that. So let's say I have a data extension with blacklisted subscribers that I can exclude by email field. All right. So that was the first step. If there are no questions about it, we can move to the second step, which is called target definition. All right, no questions. Then let's move here. So at the second step here, you can either use an existing target data extension, or you can create a new one on the go. So let's save some time, since creating a data extension in Salesforce Marketing Cloud takes some time. So we can instead create it here, and let's give our data extension a name. It will be user group demo, and then the data extension should be sendable and testable, and you can choose the location for that, which would be DESelect demo data in my case, but you can choose any folder, obviously. At this point, we can configure our target data extension pretty easily, and there are two ways how to do that. Either you can drag and drop fields from your data extensions manually. So let's say I need type, country, city fields from my accounts data extension, and I need all the fields from my contacts data extension. So in that case, I simply click add all fields, and then I click confirm. All right. So at this point, all the fields are already added, and I will do exactly the same with opportunities data extension. So now I can see that all the fields are added and the parameters of these fields are inherited. So what I mean with inherited is that if this field used to be a primary key in the source data extension, that would be exactly the same in the target one. So here you can see that it has the same name, type, links, primary key, nullable, and default values. So I will simply do some very quick cleanup. I will delete the fields that I do not need, such as account ID 2. And finally, I can define a send relationship, which is an email field in my case, which relates to subscriber key. And then I can save this data extension. And at this point, this data extension is created and saved in your Salesforce Marketing Cloud that allows you to use this data extension in Journey Builder, Mobile Studio, Email Studio, Contact Builder, etc. So it's a standard data extension without any limitations, and it's well, typical DE that you can use for any purpose. All right, so of course you can change the data action if needed. It can be override, append, or update. And you can also create some custom values. So it might take well another half an hour to explain all the custom values. So I will just show you the main ones, which are the most important and commonly used. So we do support the following custom values, such as fixed value, dynamic value, formulas, and aggregations. So let's take an example of salutation field, and we can define if we go for a fixed value, then the salutation would be fixed. And to give you a relevant example, that would be field type is text, and it will be dear. So we can apply the salutation to everyone, and it cannot be changed. However, if we want to personalize our data extension for AMP script use or for an email campaign, then we might go for a dynamic value. So dynamic value means that you need to create certain rules on how your data extension will be populated. And let's take an example of very simple rules or criteria. So I say when gender equals male, then salutation should be Mr. then if gender equals female, then salutation should be miss. If gender field is empty or filled in with another value, or well, simply does not correspond to any of these values, the default value will be dear. So we try to personalize as much as possible, but if gender field is has different value, then we'll populate it just with the default value dear. All right, and here you can see that this field is already created. We can either unmap this field in our data extension and simply drag and drop our salutation field over here, which will say that you are mapping with smaller sized target field. The field is of smaller size. This may cause errors, so you need to be a bit conscious on the length of your dynamic values. But this warning is exactly like warning you: don't make your field too long. But we don't have any long values there. Yep. Or you can basically add this as a separate value. So you can simply add new fields to your data extension. All right. I will not go into detail with other custom values, just briefly we will show you what they are. So we also support, here we go, we also support formulas, and the formulas are the following. They are date transformation, timestamps, date difference, and applying any function in SQL. So I think we had a brief discussion with Ali before the call on, well, if there that we actually recently had released the new feature that we do support all the SQL queries that you might get along with. So if you would like to perform an advanced use case, or actually will manage the data flow in a certain way. Let's say if data comes from a data warehouse and you would like to perform certain well, data management, such as concatenation or uppercase or lowercase, then you can use any SQL function here, which will be still drag and drop. So you can choose one of those, insert this formula, insert some fields, and perform data validation. So this is, of course, more for people who work with data flows and data management, but just good to know that it exists. And finally, date transformation also includes a very important feature, which is time zone changes. Since I think it's a pain point for some customers who are not based in the US, and well, we are obviously not. So changing time zone is indeed a very powerful function. So to avoid communication at the wrong time with your customer, so you can change it to the relevant time zone here. Okay, cool. And finally, I will also show two other functions, which are prior deduplication and sort and limit functionality. So sort and limit allows you to select certain number of records or certain percentage of records and sort them by a certain field. Use case, I would like to take only top 10 records who closed well, the most recently. So it will be descending order. Or you can perform random splits for ABN tests. So it gives a very broad possibility to limit your data extension. And advanced prior deduplication, I will not go now into that, just to mention that if you have two email duplicates or two contact ID duplicates, phone duplicates, etc., you can define rules on how to deduplicate those values. So it's especially useful if you are using several data sources. All right, so that's the second step. And so here we created a new data extension. Then we added some new fields. We defined the custom value, and we could also define deduplication rules at this point. And in that case, if there are no other questions, and also for our viewers who will see the recording, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions on any of these steps. We really would like to answer those. And finally, we are moving to the previous step. So previous step is the last one, and here you have only one button, which is run preview. When you click it, you will see our penguin sliding, and that means that your preview is being generated. So preview is an example of 20 records out of the total number of records that this selection will return. Why would you need that? First, you will see a total number of records, and if you see a 0 or, well, let's say 2 millions, and you did not expect this number, then you can get back to one of these two steps, apply some changes, and well, get the desired result. Secondly, you can check if all the functions that you have created make sense. So if dynamic values or deduplication, certain limit, and all other features work as expected. So, I mean, if you configure that right and you get the desired result. And finally, you can see the structure of your data extension. So you see if that makes sense, and well, if you need to add some more fields, or if it can be suitable for your campaign. So let's assume that we have done a real use case, and here we can see that the number of records will be 235. And yeah, that's pretty suits my campaign. Then I'm checking my title field, the one that we have just predefined. So I see that contract is Mr. Rus is Miss. So we're pretty satisfied with that. And at this point, there are two possible next steps. First is that you can simply click Save. This will save this selection in your dashboard as a template that you can use afterwards, share with your colleagues, and well, just save it for yourself. And if you click this button, Run, this will actually generate a SQL query in the background and populate your target data extension. So this will actually run your selection. And of course, saving it in the dashboard too. So I will just click Save. And you can see that it's saved. All right, so that's what I wanted to share from the demo part. And if there are no questions, if you would have any of those, please feel free to reach out to me and Ben. And at this point, I'm getting the word back to Ben, if you would like to elaborate on any other information or probably contact information, use cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Greg. And as Greg mentioned, if there is any questions, anyone wants to get in touch, feel free to reach out. I might quickly share my screen. This is a part which I won't take too long. As Greg mentioned, it's just to give you an indication. All our prices are basically on the website, so we're quite transparent with it. So there's no hidden fees or anything. These are obviously in dollars at the moment, but there's like a drop-down menu. You can change it to euros or Australian dollars, depending on where you basically are in the world. I might quickly share this with you guys to give you an idea of how DESelect basically works. So obviously there's a proposed action plan. So once the contracting needs to be signed, agreement, all the legalities needs to be checked, then we do the setup, which we mentioned is plug and play. So it totally take probably about 30 minutes. So there's no long implementations or anything like that. And then there's the onboarding. You get like a training from our customer service manager who will give you a training throughout to at least to start. But yeah, anytime that you feel you have any questions, you're always welcome afterwards to reach out. We have something which we call hypercare, which is in the beginning to give the customers who basically need extra care or extra attention, so that we support that a full month, so that at least we make sure like whatever you purchased, you're able to basically make good use of it. So and afterwards there's ongoing support as well, so it's not, you're never left alone basically at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean that's it in on my side. I think I will give the word back to Ali. Thank you
Thanks
very
very,
much.
No, thanks very much, guys. That was amazing. The tool is absolutely fantastic. There was actually a couple of questions on chat that I'd like to just mention. The first one is the prices that you mentioned, Ben. Is it at a marketing cloud account level or business unit level? You're on mute, by the way.
So I think maybe Greg, you might want to mention that because I mean, obviously the prices. Okay, no, I'll let you answer that, Greg.
Yeah, sure. So the price depends on three criteria. So first is DESelect edition, and based on, well, the edition depends on DESelect features. I think it's worth also showing the my screen, and I can quickly show you the difference between editions. But while that opens, so there are three criteria: DESelect edition, enable plus and advanced, and a number of users that will actually use DESelect, and a number of business units. So I can quickly go to the DESelect homepage. So you can simply go to products. Okay, that's loading. One moment. Okay, here we go to pricing and editions. So there are three editions. And well, most of the features that you have seen today are stored in DESelect enable. So this is the standard edition where you can do all the intuitive drag and drop segmentation. You can apply unions. I mean, that's the feature that we didn't get into seeing today, but it's well, basically combining several data sources. You can use joins. Of course, you can use filters in DESelect, apply dynamic date filters, automate your segmentation by adding SQL queries to Marketing Cloud Automation Studio, and sort your records. Then DESelect Plus also allows you to perform calculations and aggregations, the ones that we have seen today. You can also use personalization. So you may remember the example with a case van, or well, some criteria based on gender. So this is an example of personalization. You can apply formulas to fields such as date transformations and time zone changes. You can deduplicate your records, and of course store your values in the target data extension. I mean, store the results of your calculations. And DESelect Advanced adds on top of this also waterfall segmentation, which is a waterfall deduplication, which means that you can define as many deduplication rows as you may need. And you can also apply all the SQL functions as we have seen today. So it's for data flows, for data management, like concatenation, uppercase, lowercase. And of course, you can define pick lists. So this is a very important feature for marketers. These are the difference between editions. And two other criteria, as mentioned, are number of users and business units.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Greg. I actually have a question for you guys. Do you have a release schedule in terms of how many updates to go through a year? Are you aligned to Salesforce's, for example, Marketing Cloud's release schedule? If someone wanted product features or enhancements added to your product, do you have a process that do that where someone can suggest additional features? So I'm keen to know more about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, we always keep the idea is to keep evolving. So we do always work on things. This is something our customer success manager, mainly the product manager, keeps himself busy with. So sometimes there are specific requirements. We might have a customer that wants a specific type of, I don't know, set of rules to segment certain things. Based on that, we are able to work with that person and create something for their needs as well. So it's not fixed. It's not set in stone. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we're quite flexible, and we are always. It's not necessarily every month or every week. It's more like depending on the needs, the current needs of the customers or potential new customers as well, because now we're working with some customers customers, especially from the States, that are looking for, that have specific needs, and at the moment we are working with them to get that sorted as well. So it can be a request based on prior to the purchase. It can be also post purchase as well. So it's an ongoing process, basically.
All right, awesome. I can see Greg sharing your screen and just showing the releases that you guys have. So okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on top of that that we do release new functions every month, and as been mentioned, well, some of them are indeed inspired by our customers. So, for example, pick lists were inspired thanks to one of our customers, and we improved that a lot. So, by all means, if there are any suggestions, thoughts, we are very open to add it to the roadmap. If we see that there is a very useful function, of course, you can see that every month we release like new features that are like pretty advanced, such as SQL functions, aggregations, sort and limit, etc. So yeah.
Okay, great. And what's the channel, sorry, to go through to get a feature request? And do they have to contact the account manager? Do you guys have some sort of landing page where someone could go in and suggest features? What's the process of capturing customers' feature requests?
So at this point, just feel free to send to reach out to the account executive in DESelect, and either me, Ben, or someone else will guide you through through the roadmap and how it can be improved. Or typically we see the following scenario that our customers tend to send us their segmentation requirements either on a paper, so some campaign needs, or actual SQL queries that we check, and then we come up with an idea on how to perform the same in DESelect.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate the time, appreciate the effort that you guys have put in to present today. So I just want to thank you guys once again for joining today and contributing to the Dubai user group community.
Thank you very much for having us, Ali, and have a nice day as well, Sarah.
Thank you, guys. It was really useful.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.
Ali and Sarah.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.